you touched on anxiety. This is a new thing that has just entered into my life. I'm going to admit to not having a whole lot of, I don't want to say patience, but that's the only word I can think of right now for individuals who would claim anxiety, because I had, besides having one or two kind of slight, pretty hefty attacks, it's never been something that was a daily thing for me. However, when I broke my leg in October of 2020, um, the amount of anxiety that I would get driving when somebody else was driving, me in the passenger seat, was so overwhelming. Um, your whole body just kind of takes over and you can't, it's very hard to control it. And I had never encountered that before, understood it before. Um, what sort of anxiety do you deal with? And what are some things? Because I think that's the issue. It's like, how do you deal with it? How do you overcome it when it is so powerful?
It's funny that you mentioned driving. That's actually the analogy I use to explain to people who don't understand anxiety. My father is one of them. He's like, I don't get anxiety. He's like,
Same,
I don't understand what you.
same.
He's like, what do you mean? And I say, Dad, imagine you just passed a cop doing 80. Imagine that feeling in your heart
Oh yeah,
all day long.
got it. Yep, exactly, exactly.
That's the feeling of anxiety, at least for me.
Yes, same.
And it's this
Yeah,
rush of and you can't catch your breath.
yeah.
It's that feeling. And
So have
I
you? So I've only, and mine's subsiding as my leg is healing. I'm noticing, and Dane can attest to this, that I'm not having complete meltdowns in the car anymore, thankfully.
Mhm.
Um, but I dealt with it for maybe 4 or 5 months. Um, and I felt as if I was getting a grasp on it, but it could have just been that it was easing as my leg has been healing.
Mhm.
But what are some tactics? Like, I don't know. I didn't have it necessarily for long enough, or maybe I did use the tactics and that's what's calming me. I don't really know because it's happening all at the same time. Can you share with us some
Yeah.
things that you would recommend?
I think the number one thing in which you've touched on is awareness. Awareness of the fact you are anxious. And this is something people don't even know what anxiety actually is. If you can, when you tell somebody calm down, they're like, don't tell me to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
There's anxiety at play. If you were to say, you're anxious right now, I'd be like, no, I'm not anxious. I'm just this, that, and the other thing. And I have, it's, people are don't understand even that they are anxious.
Got it.
It's this huge all encompassing fear. And the I think what the biggest tactic you can use is becoming aware of the fact that you are anxiety and learning how to deal with that, right? So after you've had the awareness, okay, I'm anxious, what next?
Yeah.
And for me as a yoga teacher especially, I believe in the breath and breath awareness. Once you've developed the awareness of anxiety, box breathing is the pretty much most basic, easiest thing you can do is the breath, counting your breath. Even if you start with a simple number like 3, inhaling for 3 breaths, holding for 3 breaths, exhaling for 3 breaths, holding for 3 breaths, inhaling. So
Got
what you're doing is you're tricking your body, you're tricking your anxiety by controlling your breath. When we're anxious, we tend to breathe really shallow into the top of our chest.
it.
And
Yes.
I've talked to you about this before, but it's the difference between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is our fight and flight. So when you're having an anxiety attack, you are in super, super, super high fight mode,
Yeah.
right? Flight, and you're just going crazy. So when you practice your deep breathing, you're accessing your parasympathetic nervous system. You're using your deep breath to access your rest and digest response.
Got
So
it.
it's in your control, and that's the most beautiful thing about your breath and anxiety is that you can always control your breathing if you set the intention to.
Got it. Got it. Though that totally makes sense. And I think that that's simple enough that people can understand that and use that as a tactic.
Right.
Try to control that 100%, because it's a lot more overwhelming than just calm down.
Yeah.
Which was always my whole thing. It was, I would never say that to somebody's face, but like in my head, I'm just like, calm down. Everything is fine. This is not that big of a deal, or, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
But it totally takes over your entire body.
Well, and also piggybacking on telling yourself things, that this is a powerful expression, because we are what we believe. We are our thoughts. Our thoughts become our words become our actions become reality, and it just trickles down. And that's another yoga philosophy, is ahimsa, which means do no harm, and our thoughts are included. Don't think harmful thoughts, because it's just going to trickle and matriculate into a reality. So another thing I've mentioned a few times are mantras. So when you do notice you're in your anxiety, finding a mantra to get out of your anxiety is so helpful. I have had so many different mantras. One of my favorite ones is, I have nothing to prove. So when I'm in it and I'm stressing out and I'm aware that I'm anxious, I'll just tell myself, I have nothing to prove, and just repeat that over and over again. Another really powerful mantra is using your breath again. Inhaling, I am, and then exhaling something positive or powerful.
Yeah.
I do this opening every yoga class. I will do this breath work with everybody. And if you are aware and you set the intention and you actually apply it, you will instantly enter that parasympathetic nervous system. Your rest response will engage and you will relax.
I love that. What is your thought process? And I apologize for staying on this subject, but I think it's important. What is your thought process on what you kind of just touched on? I'm a huge believer of exactly what you said. What you believe is. So that was one of the things, like I would try to talk to Dane, because he would be the one driving and I would be in the passenger seat, literally having ridiculous amount of anxiety for no reason. It's not like he wasn't driving reckless. He was doing nothing out of the or just driving. And I would see someone's brake lights on, have a heart attack. Just fill with anxiety. I'd see a red light come on and I'd fill with anxiety. He'd go 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. I'd fill with anxiety. And I would literally be squeezing his hand, not hitting him, but like doing the whole stop, halt thing, like pressing my foot, all ridiculousness. And I would try to talk out loud to him. And I'd say, like, I'm stronger than this. It's all in my mind. It's not real. This isn't who I want to be. Or, I'd say things to myself to calm myself in order for my mind to register that, like, I was fine. I acknowledge that I'm fine, but my body isn't cooperating with what I already know.
Yeah. Your stress response was activated.
So do you feel like anxiety is stronger, like your mind and your body? Can you correlate them together and get them to speak, or is it stronger than that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's all connected. Absolutely. I think your thoughts do hold power over your body's response. But I do think once your stress response has happened, like you're now stressed, your heart is responding, you're right, your heart rate is now increased, your blood is pumping, and your brain is aware of this. So the two are, and your brain is so smart, right? Your brain is your left and right brain are arguing and fighting, right? Your logic is blinking. Your emotions are freaking out, right?
Yeah.
You're definitely in this like whole fight response. Every single sense is responding to fight.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I'll come back to what I believe in, breath and
Yeah.
the breath awareness. And what you're doing is you're breathing shallow into your chest. So if you want to jump out of that and you want to make the connection, come back to your breath and
Okay.
inhale through your nose into your belly to completely fill your body with breath. And your heart
Okay.
rate will settle, your body's going to respond, and your brain is going to follow.
Okay. I totally understand that. And I can even hearing you say that a few times, I can visually see that helping.
And I always think it's easier said than done,
Yeah.
because don't get me wrong, I have all my fair shares of anxiety, and the last thing I want to do is do breath work where I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and breathe. It's like, no, I'm in it right now. So my other advice is finding solid people, who a support team who you can rely on. And maybe that's not even texting or calling, but we have our 21-day challenge. And I've relied on that now a few times just to post,
Yeah.
where I'm in it and I really wanted a drink and just a glass of wine, and I think it's just a glass of wine,
Mhm.
but finding that source, finding that outlet to vent just a little bit,
Yeah.
it was also a distraction. It was, taking time to write your post, and,
Yeah.
and also posting to feel like you're doing it. And, it's a whole process. So
Yeah.
finding a support team, finding somebody to talk to, finding something to talk to, journaling in anxiety attacks, if you can, is freaking awesome, because
Wow.
you will just completely shock yourself at your own ability to self-calm and self-soothe. So if you have that in you, to just pick up a pen and start writing down what's going on in your head, what I like to call spiral thinking, right?
Okay.
Our thoughts are in this loop. We're spiraling. Maybe it stays in one solid circle and you just keep repeating yourself, but maybe it goes down the dark hole and you just keep getting worse and worse and worse. But getting that vomit out onto paper is going to get it out of your head. So if you can journal when you're in it, that's really powerful.